Because our animals live in the same environment we do, and they drink, in many cases, the same water, breathe the same air, live under the same conditions, especially our house pets, they are basically living in the same environment as we are. When Joanne and I got into formulas approximately 3.5 years ago, I always kid Terry over there. She always says we were the first to be on formulas. I said, well, then we were your guinea pigs. And back then, they didn't have names. They had numbers. And we really didn't know what we were taking, in all honesty. But we survived, and we saw changes for the better. Not only Joanne and I, but our children, Joanne's mother. And we saw a lot of positive changes, and the practitioner we were dealing with was very open. He was a chiropractor, but he was looking for other alternatives. He didn't want to do just general chiropractic work, although chiropractic work is good. And the first question from my wife's mouth was, what can we do for the animals? She asked him. He said, I don't know, but I'll find out. And we were thinking we could take the human formulas, and because we own horses and our daughters are in the industry, we could just increase the dosage and bring them back to somewhat perfection. Well, what we found out are there are different formulas for animals and humans. So we got involved with Terry, and she started formulating some things for horses and our dogs, and we started using them. And we started seeing drastic changes as we did in ourselves. And again, what are we talking about? We're talking about balancing the body, whether it be an animal or ourselves. One thing I can tell you we were primarily concerned about was our horse, because our horse had a disease called equine protozoa, and it's got another long name, and attacks the spinal column. And this horse we purchased, we knew it had it, but they could treat it with medication, and the medication would at least stabilize it to a point where the horse could perform. And our horses are performing horses, they're jumper horses. So we didn't want to go ahead with that, so we started putting on the formula that Terry has designed for us. We had a sick horse, we brought it back to health, we brought it back to competition, we brought it back to a winning mode. It was a champion. This really opened up our eyes. Because in the horse industry, or in the animal industry, number one, at least we ourselves, we can choose the water we drink. We can choose the feed, or food we eat. A horse or a dog really doesn't have that choice. I mean, we've grown into this. We used to feed our dogs store-bought foods. God only knows what's in them. We got smarter going to our vet, and he's selling us a formula or a product that he said was a better, purer substance. We started doing that. But we were still pretty much drinking the same water. And in our particular case, we have city water, which God knows how much chlorine's in it, fluoride. So that animal was drinking what we were drinking, and we were slowly getting smarter. We got on the bottled waters. Now we find out some bottled waters are good, some are bad. But the point is they're better than drinking a chlorinated water. So we went on with our horses. The major problem you have with a horse is the environment it lives in. It's worse than, obviously, our house pets, because we keep it in a stall that's 12 by 12 most of the time during the day. It eats there, it drinks there, it sleeps there. It excretes and secretes all the waste product in that stall, and that's the environment it lives in. The worst of it is, we clean that stall out, we take it outside and put it in a pile, a manure pile, and sometimes we spread that manure over a field to grow whatever, wheat, beans, whatever. And worse than that, if it sits there, the rainwater comes down, it saturates that pile, it goes down into the water table, into the well system, we pump it up, we give it to our horses again. It's a constant cycle. So their environment is very, very bad. So we found that, obviously, getting the horses on formula has helped to stay alive. We just don't have as much control in the horse industry because of its conditions. We've taken it completely out of its environment. We don't even let the horse graze anymore. It's kind of sad. And if we do let it graze, it might be in a field that's been sprayed with chemicals. So it's a constant recycling of these poisons. So we've come up with products that obviously have helped that situation. The problem is we got to constantly be using them because the horse is in an environment that is totally recycling these byproducts. Our one horse that we had a problem where it hurt itself. It got cast in the stall and pulled the gate down on itself, and it tore the skin away from the leg itself. And we had a vet come in, did x-rays. He sutured the leg, found out that the tendon was actually showing, but at least it didn't cut the tendon. Well, one thing about horses is when they heal, they usually scar very easily. And even if that sutured area comes back and seals itself, the hair that goes back over it is usually discolored. The only thing we did, and the problem is, we had to take that horse out of competition, leave it in a stall pretty much 90% of the time to keep that wound clean. Even though we wrapped it every day and put medication on it, when I say medication, we didn't use traditional medicines. A horse doesn't like wraps on its leg all the time and you try to pull them off what have you, so we had to constantly monitor that. The only thing we used was our aloe gel. I can tell you today, of course we don't own the horse right now, but that horse healed perfectly. The hair grew back, the same color. You almost don't know it was stitched or sutured at all. Again, that opened up our eyes. So, from there, we started working with, and I don't know at what point, but we started working with our house pets. And we developed, or I should say Terry formulated, a small animal drinking water that you would blend with spring water, let them drink it. Now at least they're consuming good water, as we feel. And then the other thing we try to do is feed it the best product we can purchase. So we're slowly bringing our animals back to a normalcy, what we consider normalcy, in a health standard. I can tell you of a couple situations with another one of our pets. We picked up a dog at the shelter, and we had her for about 6 weeks or so, and we had her spayed. So we brought her home, and we noticed that her incision was starting to fester and become infected. So the only thing we did, we took her aloe gel, in 2 days, we just rubbed it on the incision. Of course, she liked to lick it, unfortunately. But the point is, that healed, and I did nothing more than that. So we're very confident in our gels as to what they do. Another thing, getting back to the horses, our competition horses, or any competition horses, they have a lot of problems with their legs. And the reason is, under training conditions and under competition conditions, there's a lot of stress put on the legs, the lower leg, because they jump. If they're a horse on a track, they run a lot. They're on hard surfaces or relatively hard surfaces. A lot of stress on the leg. So what has been done for a number of years, most trainers in that will wrap the legs, and they use what they call a poultice. And the only way I can explain it to you, it's a very sticky, savvy type of substance, and you wrap the leg and then wrap it with a bandage, so to speak. Let it sit overnight in the stall, take it off. And what we're going to do is draw heat from that leg, and basically, again, you're trying to help that horse as best you can to come back to a normalcy. Well, we got away from that, starting using our aloe gels on the horse, and 2 things. Number one, it was easy to work with because this poultice substance would kind of harden, and you almost couldn't wipe it off. You couldn't take it off the horse's leg. You'd have to sit there for hours and just keep working on it, washing it off. With our aloe gels, we found out they did better than the poultice as far as curing the problem or stabilizing, and it was much easier to work with, and constantly the next day we went to wash off with simple. So these are 2 products, whether it be the formulas for drinking or the aloe gels, that are designed both for horse and both for small animal, that are very effective. And what we got to understand is, even though these are animals, we all are living in the same conditions. We are absorbing the same toxins they're absorbing in most cases. We have to help them to detox, if you might say, cleanse and balance the body. The more we do that, the better off they are. Other than that, I have a couple other instances where we've treated our animals and had good success. We have a veterinarian. We really don't know this gentleman, but he's in Australia. And he evidently works with a lot of competition horses and race horses. And what he does, he must have like a retirement home for horses or a rehabilitation center. And what he would do, he works with a lot of these racehorses, takes them off the tracks when they're hurting, and he rehabs them. He rehabs them for about 4 months to the point where he tries to put them back in the competition to race them. And these are very expensive horses, which you probably all know. Well, he had a particular problem with one particular horse. And this horse, he just couldn't get him healed. And what happened was, and they don't know how, but the tendon in the horse's leg had an actual hole in it about the size of a dime. How it got there, no one knows. An acquaintance of ours contacts actually Terry and says, what can we do for it? She says, contact Joanne, Bill, and so on and so forth. And we sent him. He happened to be in the States at this particular time. He was heading back to Australia. And we said, well, worst you can do is try the gels and see what happens. So we sent him, while he's in the States, we sent him the gels. He took it back to Australia. And he started, unbeknownst to the vet, so to speak, he started using gels on his horse's leg. So after about, I don't know, 6-week period approximately,
Yeah.
this vet came in and he says, I don't know what you're doing. Just continue it. That hole closed halfway. Now it's completely closed. And it's all he's doing is using the gels.
They know it actually was there, and they know it was gone because they did a scan on it. So it wasn't just, feeling it and so forth. It was they actually saw it on the scan and then re-scanned it in 5 to 6 weeks, and then it wasn't there anymore.
Other than that, when it comes to products for the animals, those are the primary 2 products. Yes, for the horses, we developed a spray. We recently developed a spray that we're using kind of in a testing mode by our daughters for flies.
For what?
For flies, a fly spray. Because in the past, well, you know how horses attract flies, but the point is the fly sprays that are out there are all chemical based. And you're trying to get away from it. So we're now using a spray that we're blending. And so far, good success. It's doing its job without contaminating the horse. We also can use some of the formula to wash the horse down. Now, in our particular case, a lot of horses, especially in the summertime area, they will get, at the end of the day, competition, they will get a bath. In the past, they used to use, again, a chemical substance. We're getting away from that. So the more we get away from chemical substances, the better off we are, whether it be for ourselves or for animals. Yes?
Does it work on humans as well, or is it just for horses?
The horse spray. For the
Well,
fly
I
spray.
think it's
And the aloe vera gel.
But yes, but there's different formulas. Okay? The only thing you have to be a little bit careful of is animals are more sensitive than us. And sometimes we can't use human products on the animals. We do have an aloe gel that is for animals. I got another story to tell you. I was talking to you about it earlier. We have 3 dogs, but this one in particular happens to be my favorite. I guess I show favoritism. But ever since it was a pup, I would take it out. And we live in an area that is it's a regular residential subdivision. City water, city curb, city sidewalk, and a lot of contamination. There's a lot of industry in our area. Anyway, since this dog was a pup, I would take it for a walk quite consistently. We'd go every morning for a walk for about 2 miles. Well, originally I was doing it more for myself than him, but he got used to it and he won't let me sleep. But what has happened over the last month and a half, approximately, bring the dog home and I noticed the dog would shake his head, but very slowly. And I could almost hear a gurgling sound. I started looking at it a little closer, and I looked in his ears, and I could see an infection was building up.